Hey everyone, my name is Evan Freiberger, and we have yet another yellow lemon in the Atlantic right now, and that is going to be for this area of convection, this tropical wave that is coming off of the western coast of Africa right now. And this is forecasted for the initial couple of days from now is going to be moving off to the west, kind of into this area. But we have a lot of uncertainty still with this storm. Not going to lie, I'm a little bit traumatized from the last wave that we had that we tried to forecast, and that completely fell apart and turned into nothing. So probably going to be a little bit more conservative, at least while this is over the open Atlantic. We might need to make more jumps to assumptions if this is getting a little bit closer to, like, say, the Caribbean, maybe further down in the future. But I mean, again, this storm hasn't even formed. It's a tropical wave right now. It's going to be moving off to the west, and eventually it's going to be coming into this area, and where some of our models are indicating that we could have this storm form. First off, as we usually do when we get a new tropical wave, is we look at some of our environmental parameters that are just kind of out here. This is the sea surface temperatures, and as you can see, we do have around 28 degrees Celsius temperatures where the storm is forecasted to go initially. So there will be warm enough waters for this storm to try to develop in the first place, so that we can put a check mark on. Another thing I want to check out just kind of initially as this thing exits off of the African coast, it's how much moisture we have in comparison to how much dry air there is out there. And as you can see, there is a decent pocket of dry air and stabler air right out in this area. But back over here, see all these little lightish blues out here? That's actually a decent amount of moisture. It is currently out in front of our wave right now, so the dry air is not going to be as big of an issue, at least for its initial journey across the Atlantic. So we can kind of put that as a checklist. But once the storm gets out over into this area, if there isn't much moisture around it and it's still struggling, it's going to be another scenario like our last tropical wave. If it really starts to interact with that dry air, you can even see that we got a little thing kind of swirling out over here, but because of just so much dry air and so much shear in this area, this is not expected to become anything. So one of the things that we have to watch, a couple of those parameters that are actually pretty important in determining what our little new tropical wave will do in the future. Also, another thing that I want to talk about today is we're also going to have some severe weather over the next couple of days, mainly back in over here. We still kind of have this little low pressure system that's over here that's eventually going to be ejecting a little bit further down to the south and east. That's going to continue to at least keep the conditions drier. It is going to warm up a little bit, especially back over in this region, but we will have probably a good couple of days where we are going to have some drier and still cooler than average temperatures over here in the southeast, going over to the east coast, as that low pressure system ejects and continues to bring that drier air further down. But with the introduction of this low pressure system out over here, it is going to bring some warmer air back into the central United States, and we're going to start talking about false fall being officially over and going back into winter. Also, we got some severe weather chances to talk about as well. But before we get started, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and also consider hyping this video. It does help us out a lot, and I do appreciate your guys' continued support. But yeah, given this is kind of a new system and it hasn't really formed yet, obviously we're going to be coming over and checking out the broader environment to see what we got going on out there. As you can see, we do have a high pressure system out over kind of in the central Atlantic. Pretty stout high pressure system, by the way, almost seeing a 600 line there, which typically indicates we have a pretty strong high pressure system there. Now, over the next couple of days, that high pressure system is going to potentially maybe split in two. There is a low pressure system that's going to be kind of squeezing this system a little bit further down to the south. You can see that blue there. And as I push this back, you can see as that blue kind of strengthens and then rubs up against our high pressure system, it kind of splits and pushes a little bit further down to the south. And as we go into about the day after tomorrow around that time, you see that a low pressure system will be kind of starting to develop over there in the southeastern coast. That'll kind of push off to the east, and I have general higher pressure and warmth returning back, with the flow returning back from the south going up to the north in the United States. And then generally out over here, you can see that this low pressure system over here, this high pressure system over here, at least for now, it again is kind of giving those out to sea vibes depending on how long this storm takes to develop. You see this model stops at around 144, but if we come over to our ensemble members over here, you can see where our storm is right around in this period. There is a weakness there in between this high pressure system and that low pressure system. You can see generally we have a lot of agreement that we will have a low pressure system trying to develop, kind of like what happened with that last wave. I know it's going to be harder to believe that this thing's going to be able to form than it was that last one. So I totally understand if you guys are also feeling some doubt. I also am feeling that as well. But you can also see that the GEFS ensemble is also showing a storm right around that area, and it's a pretty strong signal. I mean, we got a lot of different models indicating that this thing could form, so we got to keep an eye on it, especially over there in the Caribbean, depending on what this storm does. Going into the longer term, though, you can see our ensemble members as of right now are favoring that northern turn, so definitely something to keep an eye on. Again, this is just our first initial runs. This is about 228 hours out. We could see the models, struggle with this storm and it not even form in the first place, or we could also see those models shift this thing down to the south like it looked like our last system was going to do. It started off with that first northerly turn, and then our model shifted to the south, and then eventually our system kind of fell apart. But imagine if it didn't. So again, things that we got to keep an eye on this storm is, one, where that track is, two, if there really is a weakness in the high pressure system and that low pressure system kind of working together to kind of sling our low pressure system to the north. You can see some of our model members kind of sneak off a little bit further to the west, and the reason why that is it takes the storm a little bit longer to develop, and then by the time it gets out over here, it looks like we got maybe another potential high pressure trying to build back in there. But as you can see, we don't have a lot of blues close together, so there's a lot of uncertainty in that. So really, anywhere past 10 days, we just have a crap ton of uncertainty. So we're not going to really know what this thing is going to do. We're kind of split here from it going to the north, where most of the majority are saying, and then going to the south, which is honestly more of a minority. But with it being uncertain, the minority can take over, or the majority will just get stronger. So yeah, my overall thoughts on this new tropical wave coming off of Africa is there is definitely a signal for development sometime as the storm pushes off to the west. Potentially over the next 5 to 6 days, we could see this trying to turn into a tropical depression. But again, gotta watch for that dry air that's hanging out right over in this area. If that doesn't really go anywhere, that will cause some problems for our storm. Some shear as well could be some issues. And then also, where's that high pressure system up here in comparison to that low pressure system that's back over in the United States as this thing continues to trek off to the west, potentially northwest? Again, a little bit of a split. The majority's this way and the minority is this way, but we'll be monitoring to keep you guys in the know on this next tropical wave. It's been a while since we've had anything really to monitor. But yeah, back over here into the United States, again, expecting some drier and cooler conditions. Could see some thunderstorms fire over here in Tennessee and Alabama today. And then back over here, we're going to have this low pressure system be bringing some cooler air on the backside, some of that warmer air along up here, and those are going to mix and bring a zone of some severe weather. And in fact, we do have a slight risk for severe weather out over here near Billings and Dickinson later on tonight, and also a marginal risk, a pretty large marginal risk that extends all the way down to Denver. And again, that's being caused by this low pressure system that's back over here. As I continue to push this into the future, as we go into about 7-8 p.m., we should see some widespread showers and thunderstorms really all the way from Colorado Springs up into South Dakota, over there near North Platte as well. And then eventually, as we go into the late night hours, there is a chance that something could develop out over here. Again, kind of a small chance. One of the things that we are going to be battling with these storms is some inversions out there. We got a lot of capping in place, which is basically just the environmental conditions that are kind of beating this storm down every chance it tries to get its act together. So these storms could fire or they might not, but if they do, there is going to be a slight risk for some severe weather, mainly some damaging winds and some hail. Now, as we go into the next day, as you see, this thing's going to kind of spin up, kind of fall apart as that daylight heating goes away. Still could see some showers down over there near Colorado and New Mexico as well as we go into the next day. And you can see that there is going to be probably sometime around 11 to 2 p.m. down over here near like New Mexico, eastern Arizona, southeast Utah, and also parts of Colorado. I think it'll be a lot of scattered thunderstorms out there. Could be some flooding risks as well associated with these storms too. So those are the kind of things you'll be watching out. Some damaging winds, some hail as well are going to be issues. And looks like our tornado risk is going to be pretty darn low. But yes, a decent little chance for some hail, some wind, and you might get some small hail out of it, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be really up to like an inch of hail. But back up here to the north, might see in this brown, and if you live anywhere in this brown, could see some 1-inch hail and above. Yeah, as I continue to push this forward, you can see that over the course of tomorrow, could see some stronger thunderstorms exist by the time we get to around 8 p.m. Especially over there near Dickinson and Bismarck, also over there in the southeast corner of Montana, over there near Billings as well. And then as we continue to push this forward, this little short wave could turn more into like a damaging wind event heading towards like Bismarck, a little bit more widespread north of Rapid City as well as we move into about 12 a.m. But as that rain cooled air really starts to take hold and our daylight heating starts to go away, we're going to see those showers really fizzle overnight. Maybe some lingering thunderstorms in the early morning hours over here near Le Mans going into the day after tomorrow. So if you look at the GFS kind of long term here, you can see generally we're going to have this trough that's digging down into the western United States for a while. Eventually that is going to kind of like weekly eject into the plains as we get to around the 14th, which is going to be around 3 days from now. Could have a little bit stronger flow out there. Let's bring this over to when daylight heating is happening. With that upper level winds, there's definitely going to be some forcing for some thunderstorms there. If we come down to the lower levels, you can see that there's also some winds in the lower levels as well. Given that this is a pretty weak system, it probably won't have too much organization in terms of like the perpendicularity of the wind. So the tornado threat should be on the lower side. But I mean, if this thing sees a little bit more strengthening, might be a day that we have to keep an eye on with those lower level winds sitting at around 20 to 30, maybe in some instances getting up to 40 knots. So kind of got my eye on 3 days from now. You can see a lot of an absence here of some storms. At least here you see the supercell composite, not really seeing too much because that cape on the leading edge is kind of low, but maybe as we go into 7 p.m., we can see just enough instability build in some thunderstorm activity and maybe some severe weather over there for parts of Oklahoma going into Kansas and then also Nebraska. Eventually, as this continues to propagate off to the east, it's going to kind of eject up to the northeast and not really be too much of an impact over here into the eastern coast. You can see that we got this little low pressure system that's going to be continuing to just kind of bring that drier air in, but pretty much right in between these two areas, I am expecting a decent warm up eventually as these low pressure systems back over in this portion of the United States continue to slingshot that warm air out of the Pacific, out of Mexico, and then out of the Gulf of Mexico up into the United States. We come over to our temperatures at around this time. This is the 15th to the 16th. You can see that we are expecting that heat to really pick up as these two systems kind of battle in between. I mean, really going to see those temperatures increase probably tomorrow, to be honest. As that first low pressure system starts causing some of that severe weather, starts to bring that initial heat in, and then eventually as we continue to push into the 13th, you can see that that heat is still sticking in. The good news is that at least down here in the southeast, going up into Mississippi, parts of Arkansas and Missouri, it is going to be a little bit of a drier heat than it is maybe over here in like eastern Kansas, eastern Oklahoma, and eastern Texas, there near Houston as well. So some good news. It's going to be hot, but not as humid for most folks. As I continue to push this forward, you can see that that heat continues to try to build up, especially back over here near like Illinois, going into like the boot heel of Missouri and parts of Arkansas, where we can see temperatures soar to above 100. Thankfully, still not associated with too much humidity. So again, it's going to be more of a dry heat, a little bit more manageable than whether if it was like, you know, humid. And as we move into the 15th, you can see that heat continues to kind of stick around into that area, and then into the 16th, kind of the same thing. So some pretty hot temperatures coming over here for parts of the southeast and the Ozarks. Generally cooler up here in the northeast still, and then a lot cooler on the backside of these lows over here in the Pacific Northwest. Also a little bit over there in the West Coast as well. But yeah, everyone, that's going to be it for me. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.